Good morning. My name is Martins Odigbo, and I want to look into managing our mental health. Mental health. When we look at the definition of health according to 1940s World Health Organization, it talks about a state of complete, a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. That is, you are in a state whereby your well-being is complete in terms of your physical, mental, and social well-being. That is your health, not necessarily the absence of illness. Illness is part of our well-being. That is when somebody is sick. But when you are going to talk about full health, that somebody is healthy, we don't just look at that person not having any illness, but we look at it also in terms of their social well-being, their physical well-being, and also their mental well-being. That is why I'm looking at this topic this morning, depending on what time you'll be uh, listening to this podcast. It for you might be afternoon, for others might be in the evening, but for me, the moment is morning. Today is the 5th of May 2025, and I'm looking at managing our mental health, and I will zero it down to one of it which is depression. But what do we talk about mental illness? Mental illness is an illness that affects our emotion, our thinking, or our behavior, or combination of this. It affects our emotion, our mood, our thinking, the way we think, what's going on in our memory, how we perceive ourselves, and also that behavior, that thinking, that mood, that emotion. What then, how does it affect our behavior, the way we now behave? That is what we could look at, to be what we could say it is mental illness. It's quite straightforward, and it's something we can all research into it with the help of Google. You can look at all this definition, and then you start to have the understanding of what we call mental illness. A lot of us focus on our physical health, our maybe diabetic, or you are looking at blood pressure, hypertension. But there are other areas of our life, which is our mental health, which we seldom don't talk about it, especially for some of us. I would say some of our who are from the black community, or who have one religion or the other, because you say God forbid, or you say, oh, my enemy, I've got this, your enemy. So it's, don't be in denial. You understand? Don't be in denial. So let's address this so that we'll be able to manage our mental illness effectively. In 2006, in 2004, 2006, when I was doing my pre-access and access course, I was told that 1 in 6 in Great Britain will have mental illness. But obviously now we are in 2025 with a lot of things that have happened with COVID-19, and also the economic situation of the world now. You could agree with me that maybe we are in 1 in 3 or 1 in 4. But does it mean that everybody now, when you count 1 to 3, they will have mental illness? Not necessarily. They are prone. That is what it means. They are prone to have, they are predisposition to have mental illness. And then, if you have the understanding, we then know how to manage this. See, one of them is depression, which I will talk more extensively on depression later on in this program. And another is the anxiety disorder, which is social disorder, obsessive compulsory disorder, OCD, and schizophrenia. I think you've heard about it. Eating disorder, anorexia, which you feel that you want to always have your weight in proportion, or bulimia, eating a very large proportion of food. You see, these are all, what we regard to as mental illness. The list is very long. Traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, you know, it might be very significant. Also, it must be very significant and also affect individual functioning on day to day. That is, all these things I've mentioned: depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, eating disorder, PTSD, they must affect our day to day life before we could refer to them as mental illness. Some people use the word, oh, I'm depressed, maybe because you've overwhelmed yourself, you've overworked yourself. That doesn't mean you have mental illness. Please don't label yourself as having mental because, oh, I'm having anxious. Maybe you want to travel, you are the type, maybe you are phobia for traveling, for going on the air, or each time you've not traveled to your home country, especially for immigrant that lives in the diaspora, and after 10 years you are going back home, you are feeling anxious. How is it going to look at? That is not mental illness. But if a situation whereby you are anxious, always anxious, and very significant, that affect your day-to-day functioning, then we refer to them as mental illness. Sudden change in mood from high to low, from low to high, we refer to them as mental illness. You feel sad, lost in thoughts. When you sit down, you are always lost in thought, difficult to concentrate. These are things we refer to as mental illness. And remember what I said, that they are significant enough to affect your day-to-day life. Every time you sit down in your school, in your place of work, you find it difficult to concentrate, no desire to do things, and problems sleeping. These are all things you look at that, oh, these are signs of mental illness. Excessive fear of people or places. You don't want to be among people because you think they are talking about you, or you don't want to be in certain places because, oh, this might happen, that might happen. And remember, this is not just a one-off things, but things that affect you continuously and affect your functioning, the way you function. And these are what we refer to as mental illness. You have difficulties in relating with people. Obviously, it affects your mood, it affects your thinking, and then obviously, invariably, it will affect your relationship with people. You cannot relate with people, either in your family, even your friends. You find difficulty relating to them. These are what we regard to as mental illness. Then that leads to aggression. You are feeling anger because that is frustration. You want to air your frustration out to people. These are what we refer to as mental illness. Or you are having suicide indentation. That is, you are thinking of, what's the essence of living? Why am I living? Let me just end it up. Let me just kill myself. Let me just, unlife myself. Let me just do something that will just take me out of the way. These are all signs of mental illness. What about low libido? Your sex drive is very low. You just don't have interest. I'm not talking about maybe you and your partner, you are not having a good relationship. That is a different thing, because if you don't have a good relationship with your partner, you might not feel sexually attractive to him or to her. But obviously, you find out that if you find someone, which I'm not campaigning for, but you find out that you have this feeling for other people, or you mean other ladies outside or other men outside. So that means that is not mental illness. But this one is, you just don't have sexual drive anymore, to either to your spouse or to anyone. And it continue like that, you know. And these are signs of mental illness. So, what are the causes of mental illness? We have genetic, that is, somebody is predisposition to mental illness, either it runs in the family. It doesn't mean that you will have the mental illness. It just means that you need to manage it. You need to be aware of yourself so that you are not, you don't go down the drain of mental illness. Schizophrenia, bipolar could run in the family, and all these are, causes of mental illness. Biologically, especially dopamine in the brain, which I might still mention, and also physical head injury. All these things are causes of mental illness. When I talk about biologically, dopamine in the brain, our brain is made up of central nervous system, C central, C for central, CNS, central nervous system. And there's a liquid in our brain which we call dopamine, or dopamine. We call it whatever we want to pronounce it. I'm not an English person, I'm an African, I'm in Nigeria. So pardon my pronunciation, you see. But you see, if it's very low, then you can have a low mood. But if it's excessive high, you can have a hyperactive behavior. You see, that's why some people will tell you, oh, there is no evidence that weed, marijuana causes mental illness. Well, somebody might be smoking marijuana, might be taking marijuana for years. It doesn't affect. And if you take it, it will affect you. It's not the quantity that you took, but it's just because your biological makeup, your genetic makeup might be different from that of other people. So you cannot compare yourself to them. And that will lead to mental illness. What about, obviously, head injury? All these things are causes of mental illness. We are talking of also environmental factors. When you talk of environmental factors, we are looking at post-traumatic stress disorder, women giving birth, early negative life experience. All these things are environmental factor, major life stressor like loss of family member, finance, jobs. These are things that causes mental illness. We are looking at environmental factor, social isolation, discrimination, or feeling of loneliness, especially for migrants. When I did my master's, my thesis was based on the effect of migration on our mental illness, the effect of migration of our mental illness. We look at the three trajectories. I looked at the three trajectories of my migration. You look at the country where you are coming from, you look at migrating process, and you look at the country you are migrating to. What are the factors that makes you to leave your country? Those are things that affect you. Also, the process you pass through. Either some of us went through Sahara Desert. Some of us has to get a visa, declare asylum. You have to go through so many routes before you get to a country where you are going to. That is the process. And also the country you migrated to. How do they receive you? The loneliness. You are thinking of your regularizing your permit. You are not able to do the job in which you love to do. All these things are all factors that contribute to our mental illness. We're talking about also substance abuse, people who take excessive alcohol, illicit drugs. These are all factors of mental health. Environmental factors, personality traits. Social media leading to low esteem. Social media is very good. It helps you to socialize, but also it can lead the negative aspect of social media. If you go and look at it, if you go and do sociology and you talk about social media, it talks about having a feeling of low esteem because you see people maybe flaunting their wealth. Maybe your mate, somebody will tell you, I'm 22 and I've built a house, I have this car. This car cost me about $100,000. Or you look at this iPhone iPhone 16 Plus, and you look at the way they portray themselves on social media, either either is false or true. That's not the what we are talking about, but it affects the way you think. You start looking down on yourself. You just look at the 22-year-old person who have bought this house. Look at this person. Look at the achievements. And you will look at me. I've been in this country. I've been in Great Britain for 30 years, 20 years. And what have I achieved? And all these things can lead to low esteem and also cultural expectation, especially for us migrants. Especially for us, when we are traveling, it's like we carry a load of expectation. People expect us to travel down there, make it within a short period of time, started helping them. And anything that deviate from this, they've because they've not factored in that you will regularize your paper, they've not factored in that you are going to integrate into that system, get a job or retrain yourself. They've not factored that into it, and then they start expecting something back home, back to your country of origin. Your parents, you left them maybe in poverty, and you are traveling with the expectation that, oh, when I get to where I'm going, I'll be able to help my parents, I'll be able to help my siblings. I mean, it's good, but those expectations, they have a way of mounting negative feeling on us. You see, there are medication to cure mental health, to manage your mental health, and also therapy. You can use it to manage your mental illness. Mental health, when I was studying when I was doing my access or pre-access, it was divided into two: psychosis and neurosis. But now they don't use neurosis, we use anxiety or mood disorder. When you talk of psychosis, they have significant loss or touch with the reality. Those who have psychosis, they have a significant loss or touch of reality, you know. And one of the causes of that is you can look at schizophrenia, for example. But when we talk about anxiety or mood disorder, which in those days we refer to as neurosis, is distress, difficult coping with daily life activity. Distress or difficult coping with daily life activities. And I think, and this affects majority of people, you see. And you can still be functioning, you can have a job, you can be going to school, you can still be studying, you can be managing a position, but you are having difficulty managing day-to-day life activity, coping. And that is why anxiety or mood disorder. And that's why I'm looking at one of them: depression. Depression. So we are looking at depression. It's a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. It is a mood disorder. You see, brethren or friends, permit me when I'm using brethren because I'm among religion people. Sometimes that is the language we use. So it is a mood disorder that causes persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. It's not just a one-off. It persists on daily basis. It's something that affects your daily life. Remember when I was talking about earlier on, I was talking about something that is so significant to affect your day-to-day life. You just don't have interest. Every day, there is no interest. You feeling sad, you feeling low. And that is what we refer to as clinical depression. Although often at times people use depression loosely. Oh, I'm depressed. Look at the way Arsenal lost to they lost to PSG at home, and now they lost to Brentford. I'm just depressed about this Arsenal. Well, Arsenal is my team anyway. You see, and then that is not the depression we are talking about, because it does not affect my day-to-day life. They are earning their own money. We move on. Next season, we'll go again. Either they come back from 1-0 down to PSG or not. We'll move on next season. It doesn't affect my day-to-day life. You see, I'm also having interest in other things, and doesn't mean I've lost interest in them. So it does not affect. That is, we can't refer to that as depression, even though I might be talking with friends and say I'm just depressed about this Arsenal. So that is not the depression we are talking about. We are talking about a mood disorder that causes a persistent feelings of sadness and loss of interest, and it affects your day-to-day activities. That is what we refer to as depression. Causes or symptoms of depression. I mean, Q or symptoms of depression. What are the things that you will see that you know that you are depressed? And may I tell you, this depression we are talking about, it can affect anybody. It can affect this clinical depression we are talking about. It can affect anybody. It's often at times that we, colored people, we don't want to talk about certain things. We want to talk about our good jobs, about our a lot of things that are going on well, but when it comes to mental illness, we don't want to talk about it. We can talk about high blood pressure, we can talk about diabetes, but when it comes to mental illness or HIV, we don't want to talk about it. Somebody close to me died of HIV. And the people say, oh, don't talk about it. I said, why? She did not mess up. She was given a blood contaminated with HIV. At least if we talk about it, those hospitals in that country, they will be aware so that they will screen those blood, they will be given to people. But the same thing about mental illness. Brethren or friends, mental illness is real and we must deal with it. Depression is one of it. Q or symptoms of depression, things you will see that you know that this is depression. Persistent feeling of unhappy or hopeless or helpless situation or helplessness. You feel persistent that you are feeling unhappy all the time. You are unhappy, you are moody. Hopelessness or helplessness. Hopelessness leads to helplessness because I'm just hopeless, I'm just helpless. And this is not just a one-off, it's a continual feeling. That is one of the signs of depression. Remember, mental illness is not for you to take in isolation. You need to bring some of those symptoms together, and they have to be persistent before you can say, put a label on someone or on yourself and say, I have a clinical depression and I need to do something about it. Because you need to accept before you can do something about it. What about low self-esteem? You just look down on yourself. I'm worthless. Other people are doing well. I'm worthless. And people around you might be envy what you got, but you don't see it as nothing. It's just this job, I'm just don't like it. You low esteem. Look, other people have got a good job. Other people have got a good building, a good accommodation, a good car, a good family. You just everything around you, just having a low esteem of yourself. I can do nothing, don't you? And it has to be persistent. I'm mentioning this persistency so that you don't take one off and put a label on yourself or on people. No interest or pleasure in the activities we usually enjoy. You suddenly don't have pleasure or interest in them. Maybe you are the type you enjoy, fellowshipping with people, you enjoy watching football, you enjoy certain food. I'm not talking of maybe because of your health, you now stop. No, but suddenly there is no interest. You enjoy traveling. Now you just lost interest in traveling. You don't even want to go out of the building. You just want to stay indoor, lie down passively, not that you are doing anything, and you are feeling stress. You are not working, but you have stress. This is where we were talk of sign language. Inner stress, not because of overwhelm of a job, you just feel stress inside it. And then you are now having anxiety. Oh, what will happen? Anxiety on a persistent basis. It start affecting your day-to-day activity. You feel, oh, if I go out, something might happen to me. If I go out, and then you are feeling tearful. You find yourself the time you're just feeling tearful, crying without nothing, without anything you can pinpoint, that is a sign or cue or symptoms of depression. Or you are feeling guilty. All the time you are feeling guilty. Oh, it's my fault. This happened is my fault. Your company is not going well, it's my fault. This happened is my fault. If you have done something in the past and you have sought for forgiveness from God or from the person you have offended, then you move on with your life. But no, you have not even done anything to anyone. You have not offended them, but you just feel guilty. Oh, you just feel guilty. Oh, your family, back people you back home. If you're an immigrant, people back home are suffering. My brother, my sister, they depend on me. You feel guilty for that. You cannot help them. You know, not that you borrow money from them before you even travel, but you just feel guilty that you can't help them and it's affecting you. That is sign of depression. Difficulty in making simple decision. Simple decision. You find difficulty in making them, even to take the bin out to go and put it in a bin bag, out your bin bag to go and put them in a bin in the bin outside so that they will carry it away. You just feel down. You cannot even stand up to carry your bin is full. There are flies, perching over there, and then you're just saying, "I will do it. I will do it. I will." You know what to do, but you just say, "I will do it." You cannot make that decision. These are some of the causes or cue or symptoms, some of the cues or symptoms of depression. Let's also look at now what causes depression. Causes of depression. We are looking at the second subheading, causes of depression. We have looked at the cue or symptoms of depression: persistent feeling or happiness, unhappy, low, hopelessness, helplessness, low self-esteem, no interest or pleasure in the things we used to enjoy, stress, anxiety, feeling tearful, guilty, difficult making decisions. These are some of the cue or symptoms of depression. Now, what causes depression? Let's look at causes of depression. We see research or people, because I'm not an expert I'm not a psychologist, I'm a social worker. I work with adults with learning disability and mental health. So I'm not a psychology or an AMP approved mental health practitioner, but I just want us to tell us that there is no single causes of depression, but some factors can contribute to depression. There is no single causes that will say, oh, this is the causes of depression and this is what caused depression. No, there is no single causes, but there are a lot of factors that when you bring them together and they are persist in our life, they can cause depression. What is those things? Genetic. That is, I've mentioned it in our mental when I was talking about mental health. Genetic. There are people who are predisposition to depression. There is depression running in their lineage. It doesn't mean now that you'll be feeling, oh, because my parents or my grandparents, one of them suffered depression, I will suffer depression. No, but is for you to be aware that if it runs in your family, you need to be aware of this. And then so that you can do something about it, so that you can take control of it before they take control of your life. And also psychologically, we talk about stressful life events, bereavement, or attachment loss. We're talking about Bowlby. If you go and read Bowlby attachment theory, it talks about attachment loss. Somebody you've attached to, and then suddenly that person pass away. And there is no secure attachment. Somebody to give a secure attachment, like children, for example, maybe one of the parents pass away, and then no one to give them to replace or to give them a secure, we call it in that attachment theory, Bobby call it a natural caregiver. It's not there to fill in the gap. That can lead to mental illness. Sexual abuse. Somebody is being sexually abused, either rape, and if it to be minor or to anyone. But children, that leads to what psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud talks about, that it goes into their unconsciousness, our subconsciousness. It goes into there, and then it affects someone in a latter life. In a latter life. That's why you need to deal with it. Deal with those things. Major life changes. Having a child, getting married, having a child can lead to depression. Well, if it's not properly managed, especially remember, I'm talking of migrant because I based in the UK and I've been around Europe. I travel from Nigeria to Europe, especially some of us migrants. We find ourselves in a place where in a loneliness whereby there is no family network is different, social network is different, social support. The friends you've got, they also have their own business, their own job to go to so that they can pay their bills. So no one wants to help you when you give birth, maybe to your first child, and you are there feeling lonely. You are there, your husband has to go to work. That can lead to postnatal depression, especially for women. It's not uncommon to have it among migrants. It's just for you to address it and see, how do this thing happen? How do I take control of it? Loneliness, when we have a change of, when you travel, thousand smile, that's a change, life changes. Some of you will change, will leave, maybe you're a manager, where you are coming from, people serve you, and your expectation is that when I get to Europe, I will get my paper, things will be all right. But you get here, you find yourself, you spent, or you maybe you sold your property, and you've resigned your job, and you find yourself in a country whereby you need to go through the process of regularizing your paper, and all these things will then started to affect you. You are depressed. You are doing a job that you would never dream of doing, and that is some of the causes of depression. Also, biologically, I've mentioned is hormonal imbalance, dopamine in our central nervous system. All these things, they lead to depression. Remember, I said they have to be persistent and they have to affect us significantly in our day-to-day activities, in our day-to-day life. Now, what are the cure or management for depression? Why do I put cure? We've looked at the cure, which is the symptoms. We've looked at the causes, and now we are looking at the cure or managing depression. Why do I not say cure? Because sometimes you just have to manage the symptoms and then you still continue to function. It's not necessarily being that to be eradicated totally, and that doesn't mean they cannot be cured totally. One thing again is I'm not anti medical. You can use medication. This is the error for some of us who are inclined to a religious organization. They will tell you, oh, throw away your medication. Hey, why are you using medication? No, God has given us everything. Those medications, they came from the leaves, they came from all these things God has given us. If God created the whole universe and is giving this to us, there are people who have researched, who have studied, and they now put some of those leaves or some of those things together to make a particular tablet for you to use. Yes, for you, maybe for you to get to a position whereby you'll be able to apply your inner strength, social factors. So you can use medication, you can see a therapist. I'm not against therapists. These people, that's their own area of specialization. All I'm telling you now, I'm a social worker. I research into what the therapists, all the psychologists, what they've written. They research years of study. So go to them if it's available wherever you are. And so we are looking at the cure or managing depression. I was listening to a Keeping It Tree, Adeola Fayehun, and he was having a chat with a guy from Nigeria called Shud Jideohun, Chude, Jideohun, Jideonwo. You can research into this guy, and I really listen to him and I really gain a lot. And I will encourage you, if you're a Nigeria or black person, put it on Google, go to your YouTube, search for Chude, that is Chude, and his surname is Jideonwo. And he was talking, he's a trained lawyer who turned journalist. He was talking about being depressed in 2006. And he actually highlighted how he came out of depression. And since 2006 up till now, he has not experienced depression. And I pray that he will not experience it again in Jesus' name, because he's a Christian, and I will put in Jesus' name. But I just want this video not to be so religious, but I might be quoting some scripture for some of us who are inclined to Christianity. But it doesn't mean that this video cannot be useful. If you are not if you claim you are not a Christian, but you can gain from it. Just research and build on the point I've highlighted, and you too research into it and make it more better and bring it back to the social media so that a comprehensive information about depression could be available. You know, he reconsidered life totally. Those things it was considered very important in life. You know, you reconsider it. You know, when we are talking about cure or managing depression, you need to consider, things you valued. You know, some of these things are the things that put pressure on us. I want to have a mortgage. I want to have a brand new car. And you see, I want to have this job. I want to have career. I want to have material. You see, material things are good, but I'm telling you, material things does not make people actually happy or successful. So, in order to you to overcome depression, you need to build joy and happiness. Not necessarily on material things. As I said, material things are good. We are not talking about ignoring. We are not ignoring those things, but we are putting them in perspective. You see, material things are good, but they are not necessary to make us happy. So we need to build happiness and joy. We need to talk and be open about our emotion. And this is why I said a lot of us who belongs to one religious group or the other, we are so in denial. I've met a lot of people, they are in denial. When they have headache, oh, my enemy have headache. When I you see, they are so in denial. You see, I don't have mental health. No, I don't want to talk about it. I don't have, yeah, you don't want to talk about it. But people around you, they could see that you are experiencing it, you are displaying. Your behavior is absorbed, it's different. You are finding it difficult to cope, to fit in into your behavior, into your family member, even among those people in that place of religious activities with you. They just say, oh, this sister, this brother, it looks different, his behavior different. They are just managing you. You see, you need to talk and be open about it. In Proverbs chapter 28, verse 13, the Bible says, he that covereth his sin shall not prosper, but whosoever confess and forsake them shall have mercy. If you cover even your Bible, even the Bible will claim to be carrying, talks about it. We don't cover our sin, we put our finger on our sin. The same thing, put your finger on what you are feeling. Talk about your emotion. At this moment, this is the way I'm feeling. Talk with your spouse, this is the way I'm feeling. Then you can then find solution to it. We need to read about depression and happiness. Whatever you are feeling, read about it. We are living in an age of information flooding us. And yet, a lot of us are not making use of it. We have our phones. Put it on Google, depression. Put it on Google, happiness, how to get happiness. We start reading it, joy. This thing, when you put it, it comes out and tell you simple things you can do. And then you find yourself coming out of depression. Let's look at self-tools. You see, when we are talking about depression, we have a lot of self-tools. As I said, I'm not against going to professionals. You can see professional help. There is nothing to be ashamed of to see professional help. I have gone to see professional help, and I have been prescribed antidepressant. I have been prescribed vinegar. There's nothing to be ashamed of. I did not kill anyone. I did not steal. So to come out and tell you I've been to professional is nothing for me to be ashamed of. It will be help somebody of you to summon up the courage, especially some of what blacks and inclined to religion. You say, oh, why did they know? You need to be open. You need to have self-truths, because we have our innate ability to deal with depression. You remember, depression is something that affects your mood, your thinking, and your behavior. So let's see. Remember, I said that I'm in a circle of people who have religion inclination. So I have a bit knowledge of the Bible. So I believe if you're other religion, you can research into your own book too. They might be saying the same thing. You know, in um, in Proverbs chapter 14, verse 10. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 10, the Bible says, the heart knoweth his own bitterness, and a stranger do not intermeddle with his joy. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 10, the heart knoweth his own bitterness, and the stranger does not intermeddle with his joy. You know, the heart knows its own bitterness. You know yourself. So that's why we want to use, what we call self tools. When I was listening to Shud Gideon, I hope I'm pronouncing that name very well. It talks about prayer. Prayer. It talks about prayer. And if you look at the Bible, even though it did not quote the scripture because it doesn't want to make it look like it's preaching, but I just researched it because we need to build on those information we've received. We need to build on them. So that is the way you can actually we can actually expand on the information we've received. In Philippians chapter 4, verse 6, it said, be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. You see, and the three things he mentioned there, he mentioned about prayer, he mentioned about meditation, and he also mentioned about having a gratitude journal. You see, prayer, just thank God. Thank God for your life. You wake up, thank God for the tree, thank God for the sky, thank God for the birds. Thank God. Prayer, because gratitude is part of prayer, and also meditation. You see, and when you look at the society today, the psychologists today, they are talking about meditation, even though some of them might call it yoga. It's one of the scientific proving for maintaining well-being. And for us who are Christian, the Bible have also actually made mention of this before. We know them, but do we do them? In Joshua chapter 1, verse 8, it said, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have a good success. And if you look at Psalm 1 as well, it talks about meditation. We know all these things. In Psalm 1, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinner, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. Verse 2, but he delighteth in the law of the Lord, and in his law does he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the river of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. There shall not be depression. If you meditate, think about it. What do you call meditation? Why am I feeling this way? Just think about it. Is things really bad? Oh, my situation is worse. Truly, is it worse? Question that. I'm going to lose my job and they will repossess my property. Are you sure? Somebody was telling me, was so worried that a lady lost her husband and they have a big mortgage. How will this woman cope? And I said, the woman will cope. She will cope. When I started analyzing her coping, even I've not met the woman, I started analyzing the coping mechanism the woman can use. He said, oh, that's true. You have a big property in the UK. What then? You sublet one room, since it's your property. You might say, okay, maybe it's not buy to let. Yes, it's not buy to let. You can still sublet one room, to ease your financial situation. And you can even approach the lender. There are so many factors. You see, meditate. When you meditate, you find out that natural solution will be coming out to those problems that you think about. and also gratitude journal. Write down things you are grateful about. Every day, write down things. Many of us, we are not grateful. We need to be grateful. We need to appreciate the situation we find ourselves. I'm very grateful. I always be grateful. I remember one of my manager, we call him Oganabi. He said, Martins, you are always grateful. Little thing you. I said, yes, I'm grateful. When I was studying, you are my manager, and then I would do waking nights, go there, do sleeping, sleep and wake up, go to my school, and at the end of the month, I'll be paid, and I'll still collect student loan, match together. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my life because nobody could expect I'll be where I am. Could you imagine somebody when I finished in 1984, I came out with 1 cc in government, you know, and I'm just roaming about the streets, repairing fridge. Before traveling to Holland, when I traveled to Holland, I was just doing menial job, factory job. And today I've got my master's. Will I not be grateful for that? Has God not been good to me? Yeah, there are people that have PhD, there are people who are doctors. I thank God for them. But for me, I'm grateful. I live in a 3-bedroom accommodation in London. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Who could tell? Who could tell in 1987 that I will even 1987 that I have no 5 naira to buy beans and put gari into it to drink gari? 5 naira. But today, by God's grace, God has blessed me. Will I not be grateful? Who could tell? Who could tell when we are living in one room at 2022 Dosumu Street, Mafulukoja, Lagos, Nigeria, and then we are giving eviction notice for no reason. We moved to 23 Olaya. It's still the same one room. When my parents, with 7 children, we still moved to one room at 23 Olaya, Mafoluko Oshodi. And then we are, one room. And today, by the grace of God, you have properties, both home and abroad. Is that not the glory? Gratitude. Write down things. Write down things. Who could tell? I cannot hold before. I can't even express myself in English. Like, even though my grammar might not be all that good now, but at least I can hold a conversation with people. Who could tell? Who could tell? So find something, write them down every day. Things you are grateful for.